Get this guy out of here! will begin. For over a century, this historic place has been a center for the consideration of public policy and a place where those who shape our national agenda come to speak of their dreams and plans for this nation. The roster is long and impressive. William Jennings Bryan, Theodore Roosevelt, Robert Kennedy, Franklin Roosevelt, Alfred Landon, Norman Thomas, William McKinley, William Howard Taft, Gerald Ford, Nelson Rockefeller, Woodrow Wilson, and others, and others, and others. People entrusted with the opportunity and resultant responsibility to lead and to shape and to envision. Today, Chautauqua welcomes back to its midst two who have been given an opportunity and have accepted the responsibility to lead and to shape and to envision. And you will note that I said we welcome them back. We welcome them home to Chautauqua. Governor Bill Clinton of Arkansas has been at Chautauqua twice in the last 5 years. Senator Al Gore was here but 2 years ago. And the Chautauqua Institution congratulates both of them on the honor as has been bestowed on them by their party and welcomes them here in the continuing expression of our great and historic mission. And if I may be permitted an aside, should you win, gentlemen, I intend to have a sitting president and a sitting vice president at Chautauqua during the next 4 years. One final comment. One of the absolutely central figures in making all of this happen has been New York's Lieutenant Governor and Chautauquan Stan Lundine. His persuasive voice with all who are responsible for today's schedule kept reminding them that there is a very unique place called Chautauqua where something like this needed to happen, and I thank him very much for making this happen. And now it is my pleasure to introduce the senior senator of the state of New York, the Honorable Daniel Patrick Moynihan.
Kristen, Sarah, and I have the feeling, if I'm not wrong, that they just kept trying until Al appeared. And he's number 4. Tipper Gore has been involved with family issues all of her adult life. She first raised that necessary issue of leadership.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm delighted and honored to be introduced by Pat, who is a leader on family policy and a great servant for the state of New York. And I'm delighted that Liz Moynihan is here and is a Senate colleague of mine, and to be here with Stan Lundine. And Sarah Lundine worked with me back when Stan was in Washington to found Families for the Homeless, which tried to raise awareness about homelessness. It is an honor. It is an honor to be with Dr. Daniel Bratton and Juanita and all of you. The necessary tools to guide their children according to their own individually held value system. My fight against the special interests that has commercialized sexual violence to an audience that includes children was a fight to give families just such a tool. And it's a tool that can be used to negotiate a very complex consumer marketplace in a modern world that has a great deal of spirit to work with families and individuals and communities all across this country to make sure that there is a better life. The first day when I went over with my family to Arkansas to meet with Bill and Hillary and their daughter Chelsea, I was delighted that Hillary asked me to come with her to a hospital, children's hospital, on whose board she sits. She was instrumental in helping to create the neonatal unit at this hospital. She cares very deeply about the beginning of life and the necessary medical care instituted. This is a woman who is a friend to children, a friend to families, who is a person that I am very proud to call my friend. And I know that America will be very well served because we very desperately need her talents and volunteerism as our First Lady. I would like to present to you Hillary Clinton. Maybe better motivated, and certainly more caring about the world around us. So first, let me, on behalf of my husband and myself, thank Chautauqua and thank you, President Bratton, for this invitation and this opportunity to be here. We're also pleased to be here with the Moynihans and the Lundines, people who represent the kind of public service that we value, and also just delighted to have been on this bus tour again with the Gores. You know, people keep asking us, what's it really like? And we keep saying the same thing till I'm afraid people think that maybe we've gotten a little addled, which is it is so much fun to be out here in America, meeting people, talking with them, listening to them. I don't know how many of you saw what happened to us in Youngstown yesterday, but a whole bridal party came from the wedding on their way to their reception to our rally, and I thought that maybe they would just have stopped by. They were there in their full regalia, all the bridesmaids and the groomsmen, and one of them said to us, we want to be part of changing America, and that's what we're trying to do and be. To heart. I took their belief in me and internalized it. And as I grew older, I learned mostly through my church that I had been blessed because I had been given a family that gave me what every family should give every child and what every child should have the right to expect. The kind of love and discipline and care and motivation that doesn't say, here's what you must be or you are wrong, but says, here is what God meant for you to be, and we will give you the help we can to develop the gifts that God gave you in your life. And what my church taught me is that because I had those blessings from that family, I owed something back. That it would not be enough if I were successful and grew to have the kind of wonderful marriage and love and partnership that I'm blessed with, the family that I have and cherish, the opportunity to be better off than I ever dreamed possible, that would not be enough. So from an early age, my church said to me, yes, your personal salvation is important, but you have a scripturally ordained responsibility to reach out and help others as well. And for me, that took the shape early on of caring about children and doing what I could to try to give them whatever I thought I had received from my own family that might make their way in life a little easier, a little better. And I started with the children's podium. And next year we'll be able to add another distinguished President of the United States of America, Governor Bill Clinton of Arkansas, to that honor roll. I'm just
just going to say one thing politically today. Bill Clinton, as co-chair of the coordinated campaign in New York, we will do everything possible to win in November, and we'll do it right, and we'll be successful. Now, this afternoon, it's my special pleasure to be able to introduce my good friend, Senator Al Gore. As you've already heard, Sarah and I know Al and Tipper from the time we served together. America, a strong, dynamic economic strategy that'll make our nation competitive again. In Western New York here, as in much of America, people are beginning to question the viability of the American dream. Today, in many areas of our nation, the American dream has faded because industries have closed and jobs have been lost. But we can stop this erosion of our manufacturing might. Al Gore has been an effective advocate for a positive U.S. economic strategy, and America needs his kind of leadership now. Than Al Gore, and that's why I'm pleased and enthusiastic to introduce to you the next Vice President of the United States, Al Gore.
Thank you. Thank you. With you and Sarah over the years, and very pleased to be here in what is really, in a sense, your home now. One of your homes, because I know that you and your family over several generations have a house right here in Chautauqua. And I'd like to also acknowledge with thanks and the deepest respect my colleague in the Senate, Pat Moynihan. I don't see here, and Liz. And there's hardly anything I could say about Pat that would capture in words the depth of the respect that I have for him. Of the four of us, I am the most glad to be here today because I was the most chagrined at the prospect of canceling my appearance 3 days from now when I was supposed to be on the schedule. So I'm glad to be here this week. Accepted your invitation for a return engagement. I did so with enthusiasm for many reasons. Our family enjoyed our time here 2 years ago in a house just down that street toward the lake, and it was a wonderful experience for the whole family, a healing experience, an enlightening experience, and an experience which brought home to us just exactly why all of you keep coming back to Chautauqua over and over again, generation after generation. It is a wonderful place. But at the time I accepted, I really didn't know that I was going to be involved in a national campaign that had a bus tour through Texas the same day that I was scheduled to speak in Chautauqua. In fact, my participation in this campaign came as a surprise in many ways, because over a year ago, Tipper and I decided I would not be in a national campaign this time around. But you know, sometimes in life, and I'm neither old enough nor wise enough to put this in words that capture the essence of it, but what I'm trying to say is sometimes in life, when you give something up for the right reason, it will come back to you in a different form with a deeper meaning. And the deeper meaning of this experience for me is we have a fight for the future of our country. We stand at a fork in the road. We have an important, indeed critical choice to make as a nation. Consequences flow from decisions as important as the one our nation now confronts. I'd like to talk to you briefly about that decision In terms of the issue that was most important to me when I accepted your invitation to come back this year, and which I think is appropriate on this Sunday, which is the beginning of your week-long focus on the environment. On the way here, we talked with thousands of people who had gathered on either side of the road. We were a little late in getting here, and we apologize for that. But the best position to foster change was the one world leader who most resisted change. And the person he named to lead our delegation to the Earth Summit, Bill Ryland, the head of the Environmental Protection Agency.
Bill Clinton embodies the correct answer because it comes down to a choice between Bush and Quayle or Clinton and Gore. Bill Clinton was named by the other governors as the best governor in the entire country. He is the longest serving governor. One of the strokes of genius at that Constitutional Convention of 1787 was our Federalist, was our republic, which separates powers. And we have seen over the years that sometimes in times of crisis, a governor who has gained experience and leadership skills and learned to innovate, to solve problems in new ways, is called upon to lead our nation at a time when the existing leadership has failed. We are once again at such a point. Those of you who are Republicans, those of you who are independents, and those of you who are Democrats, put your country's future above partisanship. This election is about more than politics. It's about change. It's about our future. It's about the United States of America. And therefore, I present to you the next president of the United States of America, Bill Clinton.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. President and Mrs. Bratton, Governor and Mrs. Lundine, and Senator and Mrs. Moynihan, and Congressman LaFalce, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so elated to be back in Chautauqua. I'm glad that our roadshow here was introduced by Pat Moynihan. Sometimes I think when he walks into the chamber of the Senate, the aggregate knowledge of the body doubles. I told that to Al Gore once, and he said, yeah, when we both leave, there's nothing left. He didn't say that. I made that up. I'm not going to be like the other side. When I make something up, I'll tell you. It is a joy for me to be back in this wonderful place where I came first in 1988 by myself to speak to your second conference on the American family, and where Hillary and I came last year to speak together about our family and America's families. The nice thing about batting cleanup in this group is that it doesn't much matter what I say, it's all been said. I want you to know how proud I am to be associated with Al and Tipper Gore. I think they represent something good and decent and important and wonderful for America. And I
saying is, I heard my wife up here saying what I have heard her say so many times over the last 20 years, is I remembered how many years and how many hard days and long nights she has devoted not only to her own family, but to other people's family, to create opportunity for our people. And most of the time, when we're on the stump, that's what I talk about. How we can put our people first and develop an investment-oriented economy. Not trickle down, not tax and spend, but invest, educate, organize, and compete. Many of you are by now familiar with my views on these issues. But what I want to talk to you about just for a couple of minutes today is the other side of that coin. And that is the fabric and the potential of the people of America. For no matter how good our economic policy, no matter how strong our commitment to investment, our ability to flourish in this world depends upon our ability as a people to give birth to and to rear our children, to educate them, to give form and direction and character and fiber to their lives, to give them the capacity to be everything that God meant for them to be. All of us wonder and worry about the conflicting demands and obligations of the generations to each other, the fact that too many people have gotten too selfish for the moment and done things which were bad for their own children, the fact that too many children have been subject to too many temptations which led them to destructive paths in life. No person, welfare dependency. There are people who are generationally dependent on welfare. But we've got to understand how it works. We need to go beyond that. I'd be in favor of changing welfare altogether, saying that if you don't have a job within a year after your education's completed, you got to do community service work and be part of rebuilding your community. But you have to do it. You have to do it consistent with a dedication to the best interests of the child. Poverty is a scourge of childhood, particularly against the disintegration of the family, which is occurring today. National system of child support enforcement, so you can't. Every state should look at its divorce laws and make sure that in every divorce proceeding, the judge really gives adequate weight to the interest of the children, even when neither parent seems to be pursuing it. That should be considered. We ought to strengthen the adoption proceedings in this country and try to make it more attractive to adopt children, make it easier for people to adopt children across racial and ethnic lines, give support to people who adopt children with health care problems and other problems. We ought to provide for more role models and mentors for kids who grow up without it in the home. Every child who makes it against all the odds, almost always at least, almost always, has had a consistent relationship with a caring and successful adult. The great gap in this country between talk and action. I never will forget when I was in New Hampshire at the beginning of this process, meeting a young man named Ron Makos, whose child had had open heart surgery, a 2-year-old child. He loved that little boy more than anything in the world. And nobody wanted to hire him, who had health insurance because the kid had had open heart surgery and might get sick again. Is that a nation with family values? I never will forget meeting a woman when the Gores and Hillary and I were in Columbus, Ohio, the sole support of her 7 children. I believe she was a divorcee. She might have been a widow. Her youngest child was desperately ill. She made $50,000 a year, and she was so proud that she could support these kids. Wasn't a Democrat, was for Ross Perot for president until he dropped out. I'm not talking about politics here. She had to quit that $50,000 job and go on welfare because that's the only way she could get any health coverage for 1 child. So the other 6 and that 7th were deprived of knowing their mother could support them because of the system we live under in this country. And that's the only country in the world where it would have happened to her with any kind of an advanced economy. And I don't think that's family values. When we were in Cedar Rapids, Iowa the other day at a rally in front of Quaker Oats, I ran upon a lady, a white lady holding an African-American child. And I grabbed that child in my arms and I asked the lady whose child this was, and she said, "He's my child. And he has AIDS." And I said, "Well, where did you get him?" She said, "I adopted him from another state." And by the way, she happened to have a pro-family, pro-choice button on. But she had adopted a child. She had stood up for life. And she said, "You got to do something to help us get more of these kids adopted." She said, "Everybody's out here fighting over abortion. What about all these kids that are coming into the world and they're sick and they have AIDS and nobody's taking care of them? Nobody wants to adopt them. Help me find a home for the children that are alive." And I think that's family values. I could tell you stories like this, go beyond the frozen categories of the debate that has dominated American politics for the last 12 years. We can't just yell at each other across a big divide with a line down the middle that says Republican, Democrat, or liberal, conservative, or family values, or stomp on family values. It doesn't amount to a hill of beans, folks. The issue is America going to have the courage to make the changes necessary to adjust to the global economy, to adjust to the historic environmental developments that we have to face, and to recognize that unless we do a better job of lifting all of our people up, we're all going to be dragged down. Those are the issues that are facing us today. Now here at this wonderful place, people have come from all views and all parties and all parts of the country for decades and decades and decades. And when you leave this place this summer, I ask you to go home and do what you can wherever you're from. Whatever your political party, whatever your preferences about politics. To be a good citizen as America once again seeks to recreate itself. No serious person could say that the problems we face today are greater than those faced by Franklin Roosevelt when he lifted the country from the chains of his wheelchair in 1933. Faced by Abraham Lincoln when the country was coming apart and he literally gave his life to preserve the Union. Or faced with the Founding Fathers when they had to deal with all those terribly difficult questions. You know, the other night, I will say that the best line at the Republican convention was when President Reagan said he knew Thomas Jefferson and I was no Thomas Jefferson. I love that. Now, I never compared myself to Thomas Jefferson, but Reagan never let the facts stand in the way of a good line. But I'll tell you this. I close with this. I would never do that. Thomas Jefferson was one of the greatest people who ever lived. But he was subject to a lot of brutal, bitter, unfair, totally personal, totally irrelevant criticism in his public life, and he never would have tolerated a debate in which the personal attacks on the family of his opponents or trying to alienate the people he was running against or debating with dominated an honest consideration of the human elements of the issues of his day. And that's why after 200 years, we're still here. You owe your children, your grandchildren, and generations of children yet to come that same effort in this year. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Media. Ooh. Listen,
Yeah.
this really is a wonderful place.
I think people want to be attacked if I could go up here.
Did he ask you what it was like to be interviewed by Katie Couric?
Were you interviewed by Katie Couric?
Oh, you know, you're a nasty guy. See you later.
Okay. You're most welcome. Hope you enjoy it.
Straight around. We'll go back to where we were.